actually what I was just going to ask you. Is that okay?
Yeah, I put the yellow jammer and that's what I did. That was my problem. Thank
you. Pursuant to the Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, this meeting has been duly advertised in the South Jersey Times and the Sentinel. The municipal clerk of the township has been duly notified and the requirements of posting of notices have been met. The next item on our agenda this evening is our Pledge of Allegiance, and we're joined this evening by some special guests. Mrs. Raymond is here this evening with members of her American Sign Language Club. She's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Raymond, if you want to go ahead and have your group come on up. Whenever you guys are ready, we'll.
So, is it okay if we sign our names first?
It's your step, Mrs. Raymond.
All right, so. We're from Maine. Road. School. Very nice. Now the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Changlini? Here. Cunningham? Here. Doyle? Here. Fregoso? Here. Brown? Here. Wilson? Here. Smith? Here. Starr? Here. Brand?
Here.
We have a quorum.
The next item on our agenda this evening is a communications update. Communications committee update, strategic plan by Mrs. Brown and Mr. Peters. Wherever they be there, Mr. Peters. Good evening, Mr. Peters.
Good evening. Brief update to our strategic action plan for the Communications Committee. On behalf of the Communications Committee, Ms. Grafton, my co-chair, we'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak about what we have been doing over this now second half of the school year. Our goal is once again to update and also streamline the communication methods within our district and also at the school level. Based upon the initial survey results, and at this point, really a lot of feedback that we are receiving from multiple stakeholders. We're going to integrate a proactive media communications program, and we were very fortunate to share that with you 2 updates ago, especially noting the number of Facebook hits that we've been receiving. And I'm very happy to say that we continue to still receive a very large number of Facebook hits, and also hits off of our other social media that we put out to whenever we do a post here within our district's website. So something different for this opportunity. We have been extensively utilizing Class Dojo within all 3 of our schools. That initially was one of the action steps that was identified from the initial survey based upon the very successful use of Class Dojo at the Janvier School. So enhancing our applications here with the use of Class Dojo, there's a separate portion of Class Dojo where students have a portfolio, as they're called, but really it's a messaging board where the students have an opportunity to share information. Could be pictures, could be video, could be written dialogue with their parents. Before it's shared, it does have to be approved by the teacher, so making sure that everything's appropriate in nature. But I do have a video here that I'm about to show you explaining how the Class Dojo portfolio application has initially been used both in 1st grade and also quite extensively in 6th grade this year. And this is with sharing academic success with parents. And then lastly, we do have a little plug about our video warning announcements at Ritter School. These are just 3 examples of what we are doing in order to enhance really what we had on the action steps. And I'm sure that you will very much enjoy what our students and teachers have been doing this second half of the year.
It can make phones, it can jump down tower lines, it can carry carts down the street. From there, the cold air. It's hard about.
Hi, I'm Melissa Iacona. I'm a 1st grade teacher in Janvier. Part of our communication efforts in the district, something that I like to do in my classroom is to use Dojo portfolios. Dojo portfolios is a really powerful way for students to take ownership of their own reading fluency progress or any progress that they're making in the classroom, but I specifically use it to demonstrate their reading fluency progress. By recording and uploading their reading samples, students can actively reflect on their growth over time from the beginning of the school year through it all, and then once it's uploaded and shared out to parents, parents can then take participation in that growth as well and see it in real time. hear their students grow as they're progressing through their fluency, and they can have that conversation with their child at home to demonstrate. It helps to create a stronger homeschool connection using visuals and voice recordings all in one place, and Class Dojo is a really great tool that allows us to just bring the home connection into the classroom more.
Hi, I'm Brielle Kievit. I'm the 6th grade ELA teacher at Preschool, and I started implementing Class Dojo into our daily routine as a means of communication between school and home. Early on in my career, I always placed an emphasis on that home communication, but it primarily came from me, and I recently discovered the value in having that communication coming from the student. I think it really bridges the gap between the two a lot more effectively. So some examples of how it's used in our classroom: we do a bi-weekly newsletter where students are sharing some of the activities or assignments that they worked on in class. They're able to reflect on how they did with these assignments. Did they do well? Did they struggle? What are those areas of growth? They share the best part of their week, so they're able to share those wins. And they also have to identify a goal for the following week based on all of that information. So if there was an area that they struggled in, that's where they're going to stop and say, well, here's how I'm going to improve. And it really allows them to reflect and take that accountability for their learning. The best part about it, in my opinion, is the fact that it encourages parents to actually communicate back. So it opens up that dialogue. We all know that students go home and they're asked what they did at school that day, and they say, oh, nothing. So this opens up that conversation. They're able to actually, the parents can see what they did. They're able to talk with them about their goals and the growth that they want to make and the reflections that they shared. In a digital world, with so much of their work being digital, Dojo has allowed them to upload files, upload links, upload PDFs of things that they're doing in the classroom that they're proud of and able to share, so things like posters or flyers that they make. Another way that we use it is to reinforce work habit accountability. So if a child is missing an assignment, they weren't prepared for class that day, rather than the communication coming from me, they take that ownership. They share not only, for example, I wasn't prepared for my literature circles today. Here's how I'm going to make sure, and the steps that I'm going to follow to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So I think them taking the ownership and accountability for it not only helps them, but it really helps the parents support them in the best way possible. And I think just bridges together the teacher, the child, and the family. So overall, it's been really beneficial, and I think that the parents and the students see the value in it as well. So I definitely plan to continue to have it as part of our classroom.
Today is Monday, April 28th, 2025.
Announcements.
Project grade color is blue.
Today's birthday is Gianna Delvito. Happy birthday.
Our character trait of the month is perseverance.
The character quote of the day is, if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but never the goal.
This day in history, in 1989, one of the worst oil spills in history happened. On the supertanker day, there are more bacteria in your mouth than there are people in the world. Oh, that's gross.
Today's joke of the day. Knock knock. Who's there? Mikey. Mikey who? Mikey won't fit in the lock.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
Take 7. So what you saw right there at the end, that was actually us compiling several of our daily messages out to the students for our announcements into one snapshot for you. This way we can include as many students as possible. But these are really just a few examples of how we were trying to enhance our communications, both with what is being sent to the homes as far as student academic progress, what the students are learning within their classes. You saw examples from the first grade all the way through sixth grade. Our committee now is focusing working with the administration in order to figure out what's age appropriate between those two ages and how can we roll this out with further professional learning for next year in order to enhance these best practices that are out there. The YouTube channel, just once again another opportunity where we're leveraging social media, the feedback that we receive as far as what people like to go on. Once again, going back to that mobile device, we're now on full TV, watching some more announcements. The parents we're hoping are feeling more connected. The students I know really enjoy seeing themselves on the screen in the morning or going home at night and watching themselves again as a family, especially those that are actually doing the broadcast. So a lot of positive results, a lot of positive feedback with implementing these new strategies. And ultimately, we're going to continue to monitor our communication practices, and we realize that there is always a method for continuous improvement, and that's ultimately what we're seeking. So, thank you very much for the opportunity for the communications update.
Thank you, Mr. Peter.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
There's a joke every day, there's a fun fact. They try to include some other elements. We'll come with enough.
That's right.
The next
I'll ask
item.
if you could.
The next item we have listed this evening is our preschool expansion presentation from Mr. Betts as well as Mr. Peters and Mr. Coven will be assisting. So if you guys want to go ahead and
Ready to go?
start with that, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. What you're going to see tonight is a proposal that the administration is putting forth that would expand our preschool program to a free full-day program starting as early as September. We know that we raised a lot of questions on social media with this invitation. Hopefully we're here tonight to answer a lot of those questions, and if you have questions that don't get answered, please feel free to come out and see me afterwards, shoot me an email. We're all on the same page here, and we all really have delved really deeply into what this program is and how it can work here in Franklin Township. I'm joined tonight by my two esteemed colleagues, Mr. Peters, Mr. Ritter. He has a background in grant writing and project management and has been influential in getting this application up and running. And Mr. Kovic is, of course, the principal here at Gambier. We're about to really change his building, and Mr. Kovic is here to explain the ins and outs. He knows every nook and cranny and nut and bolt of this building and what's going to work and not work. So this is a proposal from the administration. We've met together a number of times, including Ms. Golden, Ms. Verso, our transportation coordinator, Ms. Birmingham up there, and we've put forth what we believe is the best plan in moving this forward and creating this preschool expansion for Franklin Township schools. So this proposal tonight outlines what it would take to implement PIA, that's preschool expansion aid, here in Franklin Township for school year 2025, aimed at enhancing early childhood education by providing a free full-day preschool program for 3- and 4-year-olds. Now, I've had some experience in doing this before in 2 previous districts. This program, when implemented, not only has the chance of changing the school district, but it also permeates through the community. It raises property values. People want to move into the town to receive free preschool for the 3- and 4-year-olds. It also has a profound impact on the academic success of the children that come through these doors every single day, moving forward into the future. It's that powerful of a program, which is why we really think it should be here in Franklin Township. This presentation will be posted on our website. We put a table of contents in there so you can jump around and and see, what you want to look at. But we've broken this down into 3 phases. There's a phase 4 that we mentioned, but that is really often for the future. Tonight we're going to talk about the 3 phases that we are proposing for PA here in Central County. So executive summary, I'll quickly read it to you. Beginning in September 2025, the district will launch the first phase of a free full-day preschool program, ultimately for our total universe of approximately 360 students over the next 5 years in a mixed delivery system. So let me stop right there. You get 360 prospective students by looking at your first grade number and doubling it. You double it because there are 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and you come to 360 approximately. And a mixed delivery system means that these classrooms are just not here in our buildings, but we can also use private providers around the township. Trinity Academy, the Presbyterian Church, other public schools that are nearby. It doesn't have to be right here within our buildings, although the first few phases that we're proposing are right here in Janvier. The program utilizes existing school buildings and eventually local providers and local classrooms. We'll get into that in a bit. And it is only available to Franklin and Newfield children. Why Newfield? We are receiving district in Newfield. We receive about $2 million in tuition from Newfield, and legally we are obligated to offer this program to those Newfield students because of that tuition connection that we have.
So we ask ourselves, why preschool? Posted up here, we have a national piece of research that really strengthens the importance of research, and especially with preparing students. This particular study identified the difference in students who are able to read proficiently as well as proficiently computate math. And it noticed that 13% of students were scoring higher in their reading, 8% higher in math, just by the end of 3rd grade. And these were the difference between students who went through a part-time preschool and also a full-time preschool program. Taking a look at our own district data, Ms. Dolden last month presented some academic data. And within that, we looked at the amount of students in kindergarten, kids who start here at Janvier, when they take their initial iReady assessment. And when they take their initial iReady assessment, the September of kindergarten, we noticed that this particular group of students, 88% of the students scored 1 grade level below where they should be in mathematics, and 83% scored below where they should be, 1 grade level below where they should be in reading. That is what we have coming in. Now, we also have to take in consideration not just the academic preparation, but also that social acclimation, what it's like to work with one another, what it's like to be in a more structured setting. There's a lot going on, especially those initial months of kindergarten. Wouldn't it be nice to have some preparation before that? They're the students in 3 and 4 can get prepared. They can get acclimated to being a jackrabbit, to being here within the very school where they're about to have a couple more years of some really pivotal education. So some caveats to consider. This is an aggressive timeline that we're going to be putting in front of you. But the kids are only 3 and 4 one time. There's a lot of growth, socially, intellectually, that a 3 and 4-year-old have within that 1 year of age. There's a tremendous amount of growth. We don't want to delay that. We know that they're coming into our district. Okay? They could either come in prepared or ill-prepared. Well, we'd much rather have them come in prepared. We want them to be prepared to be successful here as they go throughout our district and then eventually move on. As we explore the preschool expansion aid, it's important to acknowledge that not only the opportunities that present ourselves, but also some challenges that we're going to have to anticipate and also plan for. We are very optimistic about a successful application to the New Jersey Department of Education, and with their anticipated approval, likely around the end of August, we're going to be in a pretty tight time frame for implementation. That means that we're going to have to move quite quickly on several fronts. That's also why we're being quite proactive with coming out now, several months before we even submit an application, in order to talk about our plans, our ideas, and different strategies moving forward. It also allows us to have a plan set forth, so that the minute we receive, and hopefully receive, the information that we're able to proceed forward, we can indeed do so. We're making sure, especially through our administrative team, that we are all on the same page. That's why we have had many meetings together, many conversations, meeting also with our teachers, support staff earlier today, and then ultimately with all of you in our community tonight. Hiring personnel will be one of our top priorities. This would include the Director of Early Childhood Education, certified preschool teachers, instructional assistants, and all those people need to be recruited, hired, vetted, and onboarded with professional learning in a relatively quick time frame. Alongside with staffing, we need to acquire essential resources. We need to be able to identify the curriculum to be used for our preschool program, the curricular materials, the training for the curriculum that has been chosen for the preschool program, age-appropriate furniture, getting playground equipment for the preschool students. This is a pretty huge undertaking. And once again, that's why we're moving in this pattern that you see tonight, where many things have already been discussed, hopefully relatively planned out, and we have strategy moving forward. The additional aid will offer a tremendous opportunity to expand access to early childhood education, but we're going to be proactive with addressing this. Now, some objectives. It will be a phased implementation, and Mr. Kobik's going to explain a lot of the aspects of the phased implementation in just a few short moments, especially as he describes where the potential phased implementation will occur. But as Mr. Betts said, we're looking at approximately in total, and this is by the end of the different phased enrollment, 360 eligible students. And we'll have up to 5 years for that to occur. Hopefully, it will occur much sooner than those 5 years. We will have an equitable enrollment, so we will utilize a lottery system current to our preschool lottery system in order to ensure fair access to available seats within the preschool program. The housed preschool classrooms will be within our current school buildings, especially in the initial phases, while deploying mobile classrooms to accommodate the non-preschool classes and grade levels that might be in consideration here. Mr. Kobik, as I said, will explain this in much greater detail in just a few short moments. Community partnerships. The preschool expansion aid mandates that we have to reach out to community partners in order to see if they would like to work with us. And work with us in the sense of us basically housing our preschool students in their facilities. And this would be housing the preschool students in their facilities. It would be a Township of Franklin Schools teacher. It would be a Franklin Township instructional aide. It would be the same curricular resources. It would be the same amount of time that any student here within Janvier that's in preschool is attending. They would be attending school for the same amount of time if they were at an outside facility. Unfortunately, we have already sent out letters to see if there is any potential interest. We did not receive any initial responses. But we're not going to just stop with that. If we do receive this additional aid, we definitely foresee reaching back out to those different entities, different businesses within the community to see if there would be any further interest in the future. And lastly, we want to provide a quality education. We want to provide the quality education that we're proud of day in and day out within our schools. what I just got done explaining, what two wonderful teachers within our district just got done explaining in the communications update. We want to provide what you just heard there to every single one of our students, pre-K, pre-K3, all the way through grade 6. And that's why we are looking at the strategic plan for a rollout for this program. We don't want to just get the grant and say, okay, now what? We received the aid. We want to make sure we have a plan that's ready to go, a plan of action that we can set forth on in order to move forward. So the preschool expansion aid provides us a lot of different resources. And we'll see this slide a little bit later. This is actually a snapshot of a table that we've included in the actual aid proposal. And you can see the 4 different phases that we have listed here. Initially, we're going to start off quite small and purposefully. We want to expand, but we want to expand in a very manageable amount. Mr. Kovic, like I said, will talk about the actual expansion. What I want to highlight before Mr. Kovic talks about that point is the other aspects beyond just the physical facilities. The Department of Ed mandates that our preschool program utilize one of a few different curricular options. The curricula that we are investigating for the preschool program is being done by Mrs. Dolden in the curriculum department. And she is investigating pretty much down to 2 different possibilities, both the creative curriculum and also tools of the mind as the possible curricular options for the preschool program. The expansion aid also provides a comprehensive amount of state aid in order to fully fund all aspects of this preschool program. This would include the full funding of additional personnel. We will have a director of early childhood education. There would be an executive assistant for preschool, an additional nurse, preschool instructional coaches, so looking directly at the professional learning for the preschool teachers and the preschool aides in order to ensure that they understand both the requirements of the state as well as the curriculum that they're going to be delivering, and also preschool intervention and referral specialists. In some ways, think of them as counselors. In other ways, they would be an intermediary prior to a child being referred to the child study team. So they could be used in a few different ways. Initially, we would start off with one, what we'll call the PIC, or the preschool instructional coach, and one PERS, that would be the intervention and referral specialist. Eventually, due to the projected numbers, once we get up to the full amount of students, we would be looking at having 2 of those individuals. So you would see a gradual increase.
Those positions are mandated by the program.
Yes. It is a very scripted set of requirements for this program set forth by the Department of Education, such as the number of students that are allowed in each classroom. We will not be able to have any more than 15 students per preschool classroom. Each preschool classroom would have a certified preschool teacher and also an instructional aide. So that is what we are looking at as far as the personnel elements. Phase 1, okay? Mr. Kovic will mention as far as the locations for Phase 1, but I do want to make mention first that this would start with the hiring and initial professional development of 2 additional preschool teachers, okay? And this would also be following the hiring of our preschool director. Mr. Kovic will get into the classroom locations, but I do want to make mention as far as the lottery, because I'm sure that is a huge question out there. Students, we currently have a lottery going on right now. It ends in just a few short days. That lottery is for the program for preschool that we currently know of. And we currently are planning for what we have traditionally been offering, and that is the part-time or the half-day preschool program. What we are proposing tonight is purely a proposal. What we are certainly hoping to receive as far as state aid, but there is no guarantee that we are receiving this with state aid. We meet the requirements, but it is still up to the state of New Jersey for us to officially receive that additional aid. So we have to plan for hopefully what will occur in the future, but we also have to be realistic and plan for what we know right now. And that is why we're having our traditional preschool lottery. The lottery will go through there in early June as indicated on the application, and different seats will be selected. If we receive this aid, hopefully we do, we then will reach out to the individuals who have a seat in the actual Janvier classrooms for the half-day lottery-based preschool program, as well as the individuals who are placed there for being classified by our child study team. We will offer them the option for the full-day program. If they decline, there will be an end date, and they will then no longer be part of our preschool program. We'll assume that they accept the free full-day preschool program. They will have first priority of the seats. We're not going to have a kid who's currently in our schools as a jackrabbit and then tell them that they're no longer a part of that program. Any additional remaining seats will be filled by a new lottery. So it won't matter what number on the waiting list per se you might be for the current lottery for the part-time program. There will be a brand new lottery, a new listing as far as what place you are on that lottery list for the full-day program. And we obviously would fully advertise this, making sure that the community know. You probably see yard signs and flyers all over the place. So that is how the lottery system will operate. The full-day lottery will be picked the same manner that our half-day lottery is determined. Be very open, straight to the public, and like I said, similar process to what we currently operate with, but it would be a different lottery for the option to fill those remaining seats for the full-day program. Now I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
You're welcome.
Excellent. So, as you can see, and as Mr. Peters and Mr. Betts outlined, it's a comprehensive plan that we have that we're proposing here tonight. You can see at the second bullet, the first phase, 4 classrooms of 15 students each. Currently, Janvier runs 4 half-day sessions. So, as Mr. Peters just described in the lottery, and as you stay with me in terms of the numbers and the maps that I'm about to show you, so we're expanding those 4 certainly into a full-day program. Currently, we have 47 students that are enrolled in our pre-K program. So here you can see that the max for phase 1 is 60 students. Now, in order for that to occur with the full day, because we currently have 2 preschool classrooms, we need to up that to 4 classrooms because now we have 4 full-day programs. So the initial plan for phase 1 is to take our music room and also our art room and turn them into first grade classrooms, not pre-K. All right, and there are a few thoughts. One of them is regarding logistics, as I'm about to show you, in terms of where pre-K will be located, and also making sure that bathrooms for pre-K students are within the classrooms. You know, one piece for me to bring up, and it was touched upon briefly, but that question, and it was alluded to about mobile classrooms, and as you'll see as we go through the different phases, you know, the rollout of mobile classrooms. But the funding does not allow for pre-K students to be placed into mobile classrooms. So as a result, first grade, second grade, and so forth, they can move into a mobile classroom, pre-K cannot. When we look at implementation plan phase 2, and there as the timeline existed on the chart 2 slides previous, you know, we're shooting for that old phrase of shoot for the moon, land among stars. You know, have an aggressive timeline, strive to meet that timeline, set that bar high to get as many kids into school as soon as we can in an organized manner as possible. So the goal of expanding to 150 students by January 2026 through late spring or September 2026 as the mobile classrooms come online. it is a running process. It's not necessarily something, well, by this date it's this, and then this date it moves. So that's why you see with number 1 there's flexibility along those dates. However, a requirement of the funding is that there's a logical progression of rollout that is continuous. Rollout of additional students is contingent on the hiring, training, and mobile classrooms becoming available. And that's where it is a controlled rollout, making sure that the hiring process is occurring with validity. We're bringing in outstanding preschool teachers, outstanding aides, making sure that they're trained, they're brought up to speed on curriculum training, as well as all the other trainings that all teachers within our district go through, including school safety training. Then, of course, resources, everything from furniture to curricular materials. And then, of course, the mobile classrooms themselves, making sure that they are in line with all of the communication capabilities that we have right here in the main school. Also making sure that we have security, the camera systems, the intercom systems, the door swipe systems. Everything has to exist the same as we have in a regular school. Then there's that question of, well, you're talking about mobile classrooms. What do they look like? And I'll tell you, that was one of my questions. All right, not only as an educator here in the township, but also as a taxpayer who lives down the street. What are we looking to bring in here? And taking a look, 4 slides were chosen to give an eyeball. These are beautiful classrooms. Okay, in terms of size with our kindergarten and our first grade classrooms, they are a comparable size. And they're really nice. You know, absolutely having all of the materials, all of the appropriate lighting, you know, all of the temperature control, everything is there that is in the regular classrooms that we have. I will tell you that among my staff, there are a couple individuals who have experience in mobile classrooms. And when they heard, oh, we're going to bring out mobile classrooms, they said, can I go? So they wanted to be in because they said they're gorgeous. I want to be in there. And quite frankly, and I think my staff would support that, our classrooms are really nice here. You know, to the citizens out there, don't think, oh, our classrooms, you know, maybe not the greatest. Our classrooms are beautiful. But here, as you can see, these are equally as nice. Now, when we take a look at the where and the movement of all of this, here you have a Google Map display of our school. If you look up to the top right, you can see the parking lot where many of you, if not all, park tonight. All right, so it gives you an idea in terms of the structure of the building and the layout. The front of the building facing Pennsylvania Avenue. Well, you can see the smaller box where in green, there are current 2 pre-K classrooms. The initial plan of phase 1 is, or excuse me, as we move into phase 2, I'm sorry, but I go back and forth a little, is for our current kindergarten wing, which is the largest wing in green, that would become our early childhood center. The kindergarten classrooms would then move to the first grade classrooms. And first grade would move to the mobile classrooms. The mobile classrooms are the red box. Out on our far western side of our school, there is a blacktop area. That is where the mobile classrooms will go. Now, the thought there is having pre-K very directly near the nurse's office, near the main office, keeping them in a general vicinity together, not far from where the school buses are either. So they would be near the front of the building. You can also see there's an orange circle behind the school. Actually, it would be right over there. We have 2 playground areas. On the east side, we have swings and also slides. On the west side, we have the swings and slides, and we also have what we refer to as the fort. It's the playground fort. In between those is a large grassy area. That's where the initial pre-K playground would go. Okay, here we have architectural design. I just showed you those wings. Now the one that was in green is now at the bottom in red. Okay, that would be our early pre-K area, or early pre-K rooms. Then moving up the slide, you would see where currently that is our first grade hall. That would become kindergarten. And then to the right of the slide, they are the mobile classrooms, and that is where first grade would go. This is phase 2, option 1. Also, behind the school, you can see where the outdoor play area is. From a mapping standpoint, that play area would actually be further back, but for slide purposes, it appears closer to the school than it is in actuality. It's part of our playground, it's still in the fenced area, and it's right in line with the fort and the slides. Phase 2, option 2. Again, there are options here. We have that phase 1 of the 4 classrooms, music and art rooms as they currently exist, turning into first grade rooms, and 2 of the classrooms in the kindergarten wing becoming pre-K rooms, and then 2 of the rooms in the first grade wing becoming first grade rooms. And then, with the aggressive timeline of September 26, at that point, first grade in its entirety would move to the mobile classrooms. The art teacher and the music teacher would, in effect, get their rooms back. So for the first part of the year, they would be doing push-in for related arts, but midway through, or when that phase 2 starts, they would then get their rooms back. Taking a look here, we now jump to phase 2, option 2. Phase 1, recall with me, pre-K in the front at the bottom slide, kindergarten the next slide up, and then first grade goes to the right area. Now, option 2, well, what else can be done? Here, we would take our first grade, and instead of putting them into the mobile classrooms, they would go to the second grade wing, which, as I stand here right now, is right over there. So the area that you're sitting in and understand, so you can put it together, the current first grade hallway is right through that wall, right through that side. Kindergarten is up this way, second grade's over here. And now where would the second graders go? They would go into the mobile classrooms. Now, it's critical for you to recognize that there are bathrooms in the mobile classrooms. All right, there are a couple different designs that we were looking at. There was one that had bathrooms in the classrooms themselves, which would be exact to what we have in kindergarten and first grade. There's another design that we were looking at that has bathrooms at the end of the hallways, so they're still out there. There's also office spaces that are in there as well. So in effect, they're a complete functional area. Now those office spaces, wondering, oh, okay, well, I guess that would be the director out there. Maybe not necessarily right away, because we also have, if we put grade 1 out there and grade 2, we need resource center space. That would be resource center space. So the children are not going back and forth, you know, on their own volition. Now, would first grade come in here to eat their lunch? Absolutely they would. Would they come in here for phys ed? Of course. Okay, and they'd be escorted by their teachers no differently than they're escorted right now within the building. We don't just let kids go wherever they want. We escort them with the teachers, so they're still being escorted. Okay, so phase 2, option 2 is second grade goes into the mobile classrooms. All right, we jump ahead. Phase 3 now. Achieving full enrollment capacity of 360 students within a 5-year time frame. utilizing the current classrooms, mobile classrooms, and the appropriate private providers and their classrooms, that mixed delivery system. Now, Mr. Peters touched on the fact that outside providers are still required to meet state standards for this program. And as we go into the phases, you know, it's like a cone. Phase 1, we have a pretty tight target here at the bottom of the cone. We have a good understanding there. As you go into phase 2 and the different options, phase 3 and the different options, the cone gets wider. So where I'm going with that, with the mixed delivery system, while we have not heard anything back from any of the providers we've reached out to, you know, maybe they're looking at, well, you know, what are the state requirements? Is it feasible? Do we meet them now? Do we not meet them? Would we or could we meet them? So this could start initially as a program here on site, but then if there are providers who decide, hey, let's put an addition on, or let's do this or that, that's for them to decide. But if they did, then it could turn into the use of the outside providers. But again, that's up to them and their facilities. Maintaining program success with assessments and refinements. And that's the other piece with this preschool. The state is very tight. It's their money. And we do know how the state can be with their money. And monitoring very closely to make sure that we're using it appropriately. So with that said, there are tight standards that we have to follow in terms of instructional time, in terms of the curriculum. They have those 4 that they let you choose from, you know, and there's been work done within the district, narrowing it down, looking at the pros and cons, even so much as timing how long it takes children to get to the playground and back. Making sure, for lack of a better term, that there's not dawdling or wasted time. The state watches very, very closely to make sure that the program meets their standards. The chart we referred back to, okay, and again, I reiterate that with this funding, that the funding, well, funds everything of the program. You know, so when we talk about the additional required staffing, that's through the funding. Those that are involved in the program, while as the principal here, Mary F. Jambier, you know, I'm involved, I'm not the director, that's another person, but interestingly enough, because it's on site and because of my involvement, part of my salary will then be funded through the funding. So an interesting piece on how that all rolls. We move to phase 3, option 1. Okay, enrollment's going up, but now we're also starting to go into what I call the land of what if. And this is a program where as that cone gets wider, you can turn this into what if, and it can spiral very quickly, as we've done in our meetings. So with the what if of population, you know, of course we need the children to come. Well, what if they don't? Well, then option 3 or phase 3 could look a little differently. But if it does go to that full body of students, of 360 pre-K students, now we're talking about additional mobile classrooms over on the side of the school. Okay, we could have grade 1 out there. We could have grade 2 out there as well. Potentially kindergarten, depending on the size, on the what ifs. But again, the cone is wide on this. Now there is a reversal on this that is very important. It was brought up earlier today actually by one of the programs that we did with the staff members. There were staff members who brought it up a concern, and very viable. We look out in the back, which is up towards the top of the slide, and you can see the outdoor area, and then beyond it is the mobile classroom. That should be reversed. Okay, the playground area for pre-K is further back, and the mobile classrooms are closer. Okay, please recognize also in terms of spacing that the mobile classrooms are close to the building. And the exit points of the main building already exist. With white macadam on the side, it exists in terms of the sidewalk and the exit. It's already all there. And we're talking approximately 10 to 12 feet between the main body and between the mobile classrooms. I also have in my vision that we would have overhangs that would be built. So we don't want the children walking in rain and so forth. They're coming in here to go to gym, you know, and it's a downpour or a snow or a whatever. Okay, they have a nice, they go down the steps, they have a nice overhang, and they're walking right into the building. And again, it's very close. And again, they're being supervised by staff members. Behind the school, again, very close to the school, is where those mobile classrooms would be. This is not a let's put them far away type of thing by any means. So that's phase 3, option 1. Well, there has to be an option 2. And here, the option 2 is second grade moves to Main Road School. And Main Road School, for those of you familiar with the building, this would be on the eastern side of the building. There's currently a blacktop there. I believe that buses line up there. That is where second grade, the modular classrooms for second grade would go. Okay, so again, looking at the requirements, you know, making sure that everything that's occurring is congruent with the standards of the funding according to the state, making sure size-wise everything is there, the playground, the outside physical play area, lunches. The preschool students would eat their lunches in the classroom. Also, preschool students do not receive related arts. And by related arts, I'm talking about formal phys ed, art, music, library, computers. Okay, now would those items be embedded in within the curriculum that's chosen? Absolutely. You know, is there physical movement and activity? Yes, that's required. Okay, but directly, would our phys ed teacher be in here with preschool students giving 45 minutes of pre-K? No. Okay, they would not.
And lunch in the classroom is part of the program, it's standing style. It's part of the philosophy. It's not because we can't fit them in.
Right.
It's just part of the program. So kids, and you can also bring your lunch if you like, but it's a family style where kids socialize with the other students in the classroom.
Good point. Thank you, Mr. Betts. Okay, furniture-wise, I know Mr. Betts will talk a little bit more about that. And again, the last bullet, you know, reiterating all funding comes from PEA and potential grants. So with that said, Mr. Betts or Mr. Peters, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kobick. So everything is predicated on funding. As we have mentioned, this additional aid, and this is state aid, okay? It's prescribed state aid where it is used for the preschool program, but it is state aid very similar to the existing state aid that we are very fortunate to receive each year. Out of 570 eligible districts in our state, over 50% have already taken advantage of receiving this state aid. This is paid for out of all the taxpayers here within our state. We're already paying in to this funding. It's time that we take advantage of receiving the money that we've already been putting out for many years. Over 59% of the kids, preschoolers within New Jersey, are part of this preschool expansion aid. There is a lot that is funded here. Mr. Kobick talked about how not just the direct funding of the preschool director, the classroom teachers, the instructional assistants, your PERS, the PIC, which is the preschool instructional coach, the additional nurse, the modular classrooms, the curriculum, the resources for instruction, the furniture, all that's completely funded here within this. We will also, as Mr. Kobick said, will be able to prorate funding for Mr. Kobick's position as the principal of this school, the superintendent's position, the business administrator's position. So basically any other district-wide entity that has connection with preschool, we'll be able to offset and prorate funding for their particular position. Also including the electric bill for this particular school. We'll be able to prorate based off the number of students for the preschool program in order to put that towards the state aid. That then provides our district with some additional money that goes into the general revenue account that we're able to work with in order to benefit other areas of the school district. So a lot of monetary benefits with this particular additional state aid. I'm sure the question is, well, what happens if that stops? Well, obviously we're hopeful that that doesn't occur, but let's say we're 3 years into this, and all of a sudden something happens in Trenton and the funding stops. Well, the Board of Education would have to make a pretty difficult decision. Do we continue with preschool and fully fund it from the local levy? Do we continue with preschool but charge tuition to some extent to offset the costs? Or do we go back to what we currently have as the part-time or half-day preschool program? So that would be ultimately the Board of Education's decision. However, everything that we have acquired physically, the mobile classrooms, the curriculum resources, all the professional learning, the furniture, all of that, we will be able to keep, including the new playground or playgrounds that we'll be able to furnish directly for the preschool program. So we'll be able to keep everything that's here already in our schools. That's something that will be invaluable for years to come if that unfortunate circumstance did arise. Mr. Betts?
Yes, so in conclusion, on a line with state and national priorities for early childhood, Ted talks about the importance of early childhood education, ensuring equitable access to high-quality education through a phased implementation approach. Hopefully we explain not all the nuts and bolts, there's a lot that goes into that, but how we're proposing that happen here in Franklin County.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I think we're good. Thank you, guys. So if you have any questions, I'm sure the board has questions, you can direct them to me, email, call me. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. And like I said, and as you can see, it's a big change, but it's a very good change for kids, and that's why we're here. We're in the kid business to offer the very best educational program we possibly can do. And this program falls right in line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. Peter, shows Mr. Quigley, board member questions, no straight too far. Feel like get first, Mr. Shanklin.
Am I on?
Sure, yeah.
This may be a question for the business administrator. Should Newfield kids apply for these seats initially? How does Newfield pay their tuition? Do they pay to us or do they pay to the state?
So they would actually fill out a preschool education application in conjunction with us. That way the state would then give them the money directly to their board business administrator. We would then invoice them for that money. So it's still preschool education funds that are being funneled through their district.
So they would have to then submit the money to us?
Correct.
Okay.
Kindly note that they are not in debt with us. They have paid their bill in full currently.
No comment. You know where I'm at. Okay, the other thing, these outside housing, part of the mixed delivery system, how do they get reimbursed or paid for housing our kids if we should go with, a place that can do that for us?
That would be a rental agreement or a lease agreement.
Through us?
Correct.
Okay.
We would have to negotiate that with that bar.
And is there like a protocol that the state sets up for that, or is that just between
the two entities?
Okay. And my last comment or question is, could you talk a little bit about the transportation costs and how that affects, because that's a lot of kids, it's a big township.
Yeah.
So.
Sharon's been part of those conversations. We believe we can transport the preschoolers on the buses with the Jambier kids. Car seats are not
mandatory, but, we can certainly look into that possibility. Of course, parents have the option to pick up and drop off,
Which they may.
usually. But we don't see it incurring any more costs than what we're doing now.
I would hope there would be a consideration of maybe putting aides on the bus if there's preschoolers.
It's a possibility too. Yeah, I was actually thinking
That's just a
that's
thought.
possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, putting your 3-year-old on a bus with second graders.
Yeah, but just factor 3. I mean,
Right.
if they weren't little kids.
Right.
An aide on the bus might be something you might want to consider.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's not even
Yeah.
Okay.
Cost-wise, though, I believe that the new applications do cover some transportation costs, not all transportation costs, but some, they would be able to offset those.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about the mobile classrooms. So they will pay for them even though they're not for
Correct.
the preschool?
Correct.
Okay. And nap time is part of preschool curriculum?
Sorry.
Like nap time and so all the
There's
math?
naps, you buy the cots. Nap time is like the best time to go into a preschool. Kids are acting like they went their past time from everything they're doing. And early on, when I first did this, we had some parents pushing back saying, my child can't last the full day. A lot of them can't, a lot of teachers can't, a lot of superintendents can't. But so yeah, nap time is built into the schedule.
Other board member questions? Before I wrap off my list. You want to go ahead to that, sir?
Is this a reapply every 3 years, this program?
No. It's
You
once-
don't
one
have to
year.
reapply? This is a tight, one of your first sentences was September. And then, in Mr. Peters' presentation, he said, hopefully end of August approval. So that's tighter than tight. If we were to even think to start this in September, we would have to, I guess, preemptively spend some money to get some things in-house.
We're trying to avoid that. When I did this in my first district, we were notified on August, and we had to have some students in some kind of classroom by October 1st. We opened 8 classrooms in 6 weeks. It was a tight turnaround. The hardest part is getting the resources and getting the teachers. And then they trained as they went. They didn't train up front. But we have an agreement with Kaplan Educational Resources. They do furniture and everything. And they have modeled preschool rooms on a PO. This is, you need, a wet box, you need a sandbox, you need 15 cots, you need 15 cubbies. Like they had everything ready to go. I spoke to the salesman. All I need to say is I need 4 classrooms by September. They'll be here, and they put everything together and put things in the classroom.
So we're not spending this money first that we may not get back?
No.
Well, that's what I was making sure. We're not spending out, no, I mean like our money. Yeah, go ahead.
So then, my understanding was, even though, if we get approved by August to start September, I was under the impression that didn't mean it had to roll out September.
Correct.
It meant we just have to get everything in place, and you're saying previously.
I think they'll give us a date. You need to have at least 1 classroom open by October
And could
1st.
we use current preschool kids in that one classroom?
Yes.
We could use, once we have, it, just extend the whole day.
You can do that.
Just a thought, I don't know, just to get over that barrier that's already
Right.
in.
Look, there's an easy way to do this and a hard way to do this. We're proposing a hard way because, as Ted or Henry said, we're talking about the year in the life of a child. It may not be a full school year, but we're going to try to squeeze as much out as we possibly can. And to help parents, right? I was that parent paying thousands of dollars a month for childcare. It's crazy.
No. Do the mobile classrooms tie into the existing septic system?
Yes.
And that would be able to be done by the time they need to be placed? The tie-in, we could do all
Everything would
that
have, we have to get
infrastructure work?
a CO to open the classroom. So everything would have to work before we open this classroom.
And is that is that a state, like a state application? Do you have to get a state permit to tie into the septic? Is the state involved
That I
in
don't
giving
know.
permits?
That I don't know. Though I do know that whatever we decide in a facility or in a local classroom, the Department of Ed, the county needs to come and certify the classrooms. And say these are appropriate educational spaces. I don't know about the septic.
Can I take some on for you for
Sure, I'll try to remember all my questions. I'll start with the first one regarding participation of Franklin residents as well as Newfield residents. Sorry, can you hear me? How about my question was regarding participation of Franklin Township residents as opposed to Newfield residents. Previously, when I questioned that, I was given somewhat contradictory information to what was in the presentation, was that the program would only be available to Franklin Township residents, which you're saying that's not the case then.
I don't remember ever saying that to you, Jason. Yeah, we did finally talk to someone from the state, Trish and I.
Okay. So, can you clarify then with, because they have to apply for their own program? So if they do not apply, it's only applicable to Franklin Township residents, correct?
I would guess so, but
We would have to double check with the contact of the state on that. However, spoken to Mr. Geoffrey, he said that the board would be interested in partnering and would go forward with doing the application. It's not the full application though, it's in partnership with.
Okay. Why would Franklin Township, if we don't have the capacity to service our own residents, want to partner with an outside municipality to take in their students? It would be my question regarding that.
we're told that we would be required to by law. That's the answer we got. It's not a, do we want to or not want to, it's a legal question.
But how can you make them, another district, participate in the application process? You kind of can't, right?
You can't.
You can't.
So if they don't, I would assume that they don't participate, they don't have any students in the programs. Again, not our decision, that was one of the early things that we investigated, and we're told by the state.
So do you know how the state is going to fund our grant if we do not have their participation in it?
It's funded by the number of students that are in the program. It's close to $15,000 per child that's in the program.
There's a standard amount of
By
cost
county.
per county per child. from the state.
But they'll deduct that from our funding, presuming we have Newfield residents, and we'll charge them tuition.
If we have 100 students in the program, I'm assuming we get 100 times the 15,000
From whom?
from the state.
What if 20 of those students are Newfield residents?
Well, I said, we have 100 of Franklin Township, and they have 20. I'm assuming the state would fund them, and then we bill them that money.
Correct. So our funding will be reduced by the amount of Newfield participants we would have, and we collect that through, Newfield would essentially pay us the difference, is what you're saying.
Correct. Within the same agreement that we have right now currently.
So how are you going to apply for the grant, not knowing what those numbers are?
Because we know we can fill approximately 360 spots. So if we're submitting our application saying that our total universe is 360, but for year one we're at 150, that's what we would get funded on.
Okay. So, in other words, we don't have a clear answer as to who's going to be participating in this program currently.
Right now, it's all Franklin Township. Yeah. Well, you have to approve the application once it's.
Right. And if Newfield doesn't apply, they'll reduce our number of students, because our universe is calculated based on
No.
current enrollment of
No,
Franklin.
it would mean more Franklin Township students would be in the program.
But our universe was calculated based on Franklin and Newfield students currently enrolled.
No, actually it wasn't. It's based on just Franklin Township.
Okay.
We don't, accept that many Newfield students.
Well, one,
Total is 120 across, yeah, 7 grade levels.
which is about 10% of our population, roughly.
Yeah.
A little bit less.
A little less.
Since they don't have a representative on school.
Right. Yes, we did have a representative at one point.
Correct.
So let's talk about the transportation because it wasn't in the presentation. Explain again how the cost of the transportation is accounted for.
Well, we have three-tiered bus system, and our buses are not full. So we don't put 53, 54 students on a bus. There are spaces in on those buses to take in, 5 to 10 students a bus run. And those students will be our preschoolers. And then you take out the parents that are going to drive their students. So there's plenty of room on the buses to maintain the same three-tiered bus system. So there should be no increase unless we put an A on the bus. That's the only increase that we would see.
That was just a safe.
Which should be covered under the grant. That's
Right.
So there's no funding in the grant for transportation.
Not to buy buses, but other things.
correct. And same with the administrator prorating, putting a portion to that. We would be able to put a portion of that bus driver salary.
Car seats or
Yes.
harnesses or
And just
the A,
a
portion of the bus drivers. Right.
And fuel.
Right. And for your fuel, right, you can really dig down deep to save those funds.
Well, I think it's irresponsible to say that we can transport 360 additional children at no cost. But if there's going to be a cost associated with it at some point.
No,
Yeah.
it's covered by the
They're
grant.
not saying it's not going to be a cost. They're saying it's not going to be a cost to the district.
Why ask what is included in the grant for transportation?
It's just rattle off a bunch of things. Yeah. They literally just put it down.
I apologize, Dan,
You said-
you said there would be no additional cost. to
No, because
transportation.
everything is covered under the grant. Anything that we would add,
Oh,
car
right.
seats, straps, an aid, would be covered under the grant. Part of the bus driver's salary would be covered under the grant. Part of the gasoline, oil changes, inspections. all
Okay, I'm
that.
sorry. So that is, I asked what was included for transportation.
But those are costs we already incur.
But now we're going to pay for a portion.
Now we get paid for a portion of it, unless we add car seats or some things like that.
Right, but so there's no additional employees included in the grant, no additional capital for the park.
Currently, no.
So if those costs were to be incurred, it would be incurred by the taxpayer, right?
Not necessarily. Like if we need an extra bus.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's possible you need additional drivers, additional buses.
You can always buy this in our buses.
Is that,
Is it an option? I'm not sure if it is. If we don't bus any
Yeah,
preschoolers.
We have to
Yeah.
speak up a little bit.
Yeah. I think we're obligated. I think we're obligated to offer busing because we offer busing to our other students.
And we provide courtesy busing. So students within 2 miles don't have to pay for transportation. So, right.
so was the phase 3 plan that was presented in the presentation, that gets us the full 360 students?
It does.
So essentially, we'll be moving 2 grade levels into the mobile classrooms.
That's one option. There are other options we've talked about, adding a wing onto Janvier, putting in a separate building somewhere. There's wherever the district may be in 2 or 3 years, those decisions will be made sometime in the future. Or not. You keep it at 150 and you have to show that you're trying to house those 360 somewhere. I'm thinking that you're going to get some of the local organizations, the church, maybe a parochial school or something, wanting to take in some of those students because honestly, they're going to lose revenue because those students are coming here. When I was in Jamesburg, we put the local preschool out of business because the kids came to us.
They're gonna lose their coverage. They're gonna want to have to do it.
They're going to want to, right, part of it. So it depends on, right, to think out 3 years is difficult right now, but there are possibilities.
We can only partner on facilities, correct? Not on staffing.
Correct.
So
We can hire one of the teachers, but they would be our employees.
So for instance, if there was an existing preschool that lost all their students, they wouldn't be able to take our students. They would simply be able to lease their facility to us, for us to have our employees operating in their facility. The last question is, inevitably, there's going to be costs associated with these improvements, unforeseen costs. Are those incorporated somehow into the, I know it's a double sword, like unforeseen.
Like what?
Are you anticipating unforeseen costs? Just to set up the infrastructure, like Stephanie's point. I understand that you can buy a package unit for the classroom. However, there's going to be varying costs for the installation, for the electrical connections, for the water connections, for the sewer connections.
All that's covered.
You're anticipating those costs within the grant?
Yes.
The last question.
We do the budget, we would have to put all that.
When are we going to see the budget?
So right now, the application is 75 pages long. We all worked on it over the past few months. They're not accepting the applications yet. So through the department, we sent the application to the national organization who works with the state to evaluate the applications. And they're going to get it back to us and say, you need this, 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 and this. When we make those changes and then we sit down and do a budget, it eventually comes to the Board of Education for final approval before we can see it. So you probably see it, I would think, sometime in July.
But we're using templates
Late
from the
June.
previous years because the current year's application and input information, the state has not released those.
So the actual budget for the submission of the grant application is not been prepared yet?
Correct.
Okay. I think that concludes my question. Stephanie, do you have another one?
Yeah. How many students does this building house now?
Henry, how many? How many students?
As of 8/22 right now, 573.
So we have 573 students that we house now. My concern is if we get to 360, that's more than half of what we're housing now. We're going to put those students all in mobile classrooms.
So I would recommend to build a wing or do something like that.
But the money to build the wing is not in the grant,
Yeah, but
right? Yes or no?
it is,
The money to put an addition on the school is 100% in the grant, or would have to be a tax?
so what we did in Gainesville, and they're doing it right now, they're building the wing onto the elementary building, because, as we were saying, you can take that money, put it back in the general fund, putting capital improvements, or wherever you put it. They were able to build a wing on the school with no taxpayer money. Is that a possibility here? Which is good. So is it in there now that it can be covered indirectly?
And wasn't one of your phases to possibly move second grade to Main Road? So that would take a chunk of population out of Janvier. Yeah. But that would alleviate the huge population that you're talking about here.
Well, I think to Stephanie's point, we have 7 grades here. We have 3 schools. We're going to set up a 4th school, entirely a 4th school of mobile classrooms, essentially. If we were to utilize mobile classrooms for the entirety of the 360
That's one
person
option.
students
Yes.
population.
That's one option.
Right. If we were unable to partner with any outside source,
Yes.
which, we're pretty limited here. I don't know of any large facilities that would have large students. And again, listen, the mobile classrooms, I'm sure they're extremely nice. They're obviously not the ideal situation based on exactly what you said. assessment here based on our constraints and different funding, but certainly not the ideal situation.
I think that's your opinion, that you may not think about it. Some teachers, parents, educators might think it is ideal.
Yeah, I would be curious to see if anybody thinks that a mobile classroom is better than an actual classroom. Again, I think given our constraints, that's what we have to work with.
Well, I think that would be an opinion that should be rendered by the staff, not someone who has never been in the classroom teacher.
I think that the problem is looking forward. I see the benefit in the pre-K program, but I think that the conflict that I have is we're going to put all these students out to house a pre-K program to get grant money to justify doing other things with, the excess because we'll be able to, prorate everything out. I understand all that. But at some point, that money is for naught because then we're either going to have to turn around and use it to build onto a building or ask the taxpayers to fund that. The same taxpayers who, when we have a leaking roof in our high school, people like to twist their arm to get them to pass it. And they're not going to go for that. And this board has not raised taxes, whether we've all agreed or not. Some of us have wanted to and some of us have not. This board has not raised taxes in how many years, even when the majority of us maybe thought it was necessary. And now that could be, our arm could be twisted to do so for a program that if we can't, if the money goes away, we have to stop, or then we have to charge for that too. It's a lot of things that we may end up having to charge for. So I understand Jason's point of view that it's being sold as it's a no cost, but we're going to associate costs. And we're not really exactly sure what they're going to be. That's my issue. Because a lot of the members on this board spent years working on the budget to try to funnel money and be able to provide, required safety upgrades to the schools and the vegetables and the things that we had to plan over years for safe vegetables. Like now it's like a big ask of potential taxpayer dollars that we can't say will be this much, but this will happen, but this will happen.
And I understand that, but there were also many people here who agreed with consolidation and not knew what the price was going to be. And now, my problem.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. My problem with that is there were board members who were not sure about voting for consolidation because of what the price might be in the future and that type of thing. And then now we have people who that didn't matter too much to them for consolidation, but now all of a sudden with preschool, it does. Like, I'm confused.
I get that. I understand that. It's in a case of where you want most things. You know what I mean?
And there's some things that you just cannot plan for. We don't even know what's going to happen next year. We could have something completely, a roof could blow off.
We might not even have 360 kids now.
We might not. And then what does that do?
I think we have to look at the benefits and the cons of which one is which.
Well, that's what I mean. Which one weighs more? That's what's stuck. Which one weighs more? Mary? Sorry. So I guess
So I just kind of had two questions. Was when we finally get to 260 kids, is there then still going to be room capacity on those buses? Because now you're putting an additional 360 kids on the buses. So is there going to be room at 360 kids? And then my second question would be is, are we able to see the funding, if it was to be building on the wing, is it apples to apples? Is it apples to oranges? What is the difference? Are we able to see that since it could be in the funding?
I'd have to consult with Sharon and look at numbers of the buses. I do know that the mandate of the program is that it's the same amount of time during the day, can be shifted. So maybe somehow you put in a fourth tier or start later or something. Again, I don't know. I'd have to talk to Sharon about that question. And I'm not sure your second question. Are you, part of the program is that if you're offering preschool, the classroom has to either be in the classroom or directly within 10 feet or 15 feet.
No, not bathroom. I'm sorry, you were talking
The
about
rooms?
the building on, like a wing. It was, you were saying it was also could be in the
Right.
funding.
Not in the preschool funding.
No, so what it would do is offset the funding, the fund 11, the general fund accounts. So therefore you'd have more money freed up in that side of the budget to then have, when we're done the year, to put into, which the board makes a motion for, putting money into the capital reserve, the maintenance reserves, and then that's the money that you would then use to build, should that be the case.
I have one more question, I just remembered it. So we would have capacity in 5 years up to 360.
That's the approximation.
Do you have to, can you cap your own limit? Or is it, once you offer it, you have to offer it to everybody who would want it?
I would think, Stephanie, if you get to a point where you can't at all, you can't have classes, you're maxed out, then you would stop and say, and then you would amend the application. We just can't do it. Yeah. Because I know some schools have done that. They've gone to like storefronts and reworked storefronts to be classrooms. It just doesn't work. You're parking lot. It's the hallmark.
There will be a time where we can have 500 kids. We're not going to force to take weeks in action.
Right.
And just to add, just to keep, you talk about your universal number being double your first grade number. That is going to change every year, right? Because your first grade population changes, so it's going to fluctuate.
Are you required to do third and fourth?
Yes.
You can't, I
3
mean,
and 4.
just fourth.
No,
Or 4-year-old.
And it's not a ratio like, well, we're doing a lottery, we can't say 50-50, it's whoever we're picking out of that hat. And then you take the classrooms and try to divide 3 and 4-year-olds equally, boys and girls, that's just fun.
Now, does any of our state aid, does this benefit state aid at all? Do those kids get factored in?
So
To
it's
your
a
school
whole-
population or state aid based off of kid payout?
State aid does not include your preschool,
It doesn't.
because your preschool then is getting funded by a different section of
Maybe
maybe
a couple of them.
So 360 is our number, and that's what we base these accommodations on. He said does not include Newfield. Newfield comes into the program, how are we going to accommodate 360 plus the Newfield population?
But classrooms, adding on to additions.
I mean, currently we have 120 Newfield kids, roughly, give or take. And that's through preschool, the lottery system, and through 6th grade. And I want to say that there's 1 student in the preschool program right now. So we're probably not talking about a lot of children.
You're talking about, I think it's 14 total first graders, if I remember right. So you're talking 30 students divided by, you're talking maybe two students in the classroom, 1 student in the classroom.
I believe the 360 was based on Newfield and Franklin. I think it was just, first grade, full population, times 2.
So it was including or not including?
Do you know how many?
Yes.
Do you have that breakdown?
Yes.
What was the breakdown? I'm sorry, I'm trying to...
How many Newfield students are in first grade?
360 including Newfield.
It was including. So I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong.
My first grade population is 173. It is, and I know it was 573 before. It is, it's 173. I looked before I came in, I looked at my numbers. I'm 168 kindergarten right now.
Thank you. Any other board member questions? Alicia, any questions? Okay. Thank you again for the presentation, Mr. Betts, Mr. Kovic, Mr. Peters.
We'll keep you updated as we learn more.
Moving on with our agenda, the next item we have is our public comment. Typically, it's limited to agenda items only. With that, make a motion to open to the public. Do I have a second? All in favor? Anyone from the public wish to address the board? Sure. Taking our perspective. Thank you. Thank you. Seeing no one to make a motion to close. I'm sorry.
Let me move this up for you.
Separate out, Mr. Kelvin.
All right.
How are you?
Am I addressing the board president? Is that who I'm?
Please, yeah.
From this meeting, I have a couple questions.
Sorry, Kevin, I know who you are, but just for the record.
Kevin, sure, Kevin Kelton, resident of Franklin Township. So was it this board that gave the green light to research this venture?
Yeah, I mean,
Because
expansion has been around for quite some time. It's been looked at several times. I don't know that maybe it was like a year ago, it might have been 2 years ago. Prior superintendent researched the matter and talked about, doing an expansion as part of the strategic plan that we looked at.
But
different opinions at that time based on costs associated with building infrastructure and things of that sort. Now we've looked at it, gone a different route, mainly with the middle class to do that.
okay, is this the first presentation that's been made for a full-time public preschool?
I believe so, yeah. Maybe yeah.
So the answer,
like I said, it's been discussed. It's never been
so the answer to that is yes. So I don't know if the residents really are aware of this. So my next question is, if we're moving forward here, will there be additional public hearings in regard to the full-time public pre-K proposal?
First thing I want to address is the public awareness. Tricia Burlington just, Mr. Kelvin, address where this meeting in particular was advertised and what outreach we did to the community.
We just put it on social media.
This is meeting listed.
But certainly, you want to be as transparent as possible. I believe in my past, I thought the mayor and council would.
Right, but I'm talking about the population of Franklin Township, the residents.
Yeah, but it was, again, I think it was posted on our social media page.
Well, who's ever involved in that, but
I just wanted to address the question as to what our plan was specific to this.
but no official legal notices or newspaper notifications or.
Any legal notices were provided.
Yeah, the meeting was itself advertised as it should have been, and then the agenda items are added accordingly.
So
there is no legally required notice that needed to be.
More importantly, your other question moving forward, I can't answer that. I think the computer's done this best as far as future presentations or updates on progress.
Yeah, whatever the board thinks is appropriate, we can certainly do something with the community, or, I presented to town council before. It's a good idea.
No, I think it's a good idea moving forward if you think that you want to look into this plan further, to contact some of the local media so that the people are aware of what this proposal is all about and let them have some input. So the grant program has existed in New Jersey for how long?
At least 7 years.
Okay, so it's fairly.
Well, they had different names. The PA came about 7 or 8 years ago. It might be
you have to indicate tonight?
Let's see. So we've addressed the cost that the presentation is 100% of the grant request is state funded. And that includes capital costs?
Depends on how you define it. Capital, there's things that you can't do under the grant. You can't build rooms, you can do other things, use the money in different ways, but it depends on how you define it.
But
you can't build onto our buildings.
Okay, hence the reason for mobile modular classrooms. I think Henry mentioned something in regards to the music and art classrooms, or the music and art classes, if getting bumped out to be used for first grade classrooms. What will happen to the music students and the existing music and art students?
I was an art teacher in my first few years teaching in New Jersey. I was on a park. I went into the classroom with a bucket of water, and we did art in the homeroom classrooms. This is Joe.
Yeah, but that doesn't work for a band or a music program.
Set up on a stage, you can close the stage, you can have music instruments up there. There's many things you can do, and it's for a short period of time. We're hoping maybe 6 months, and then you're back into the class.
Does the process repeat the following year?
No, because we would have the mobile classrooms established with the CO, and then the students would be out there, and those students would be back into the art music.
So you're going to break up the kids from let me understand this. First graders, they went here for kindergarten, and then first graders are going to be in modular classrooms the second year?
But the classrooms are there, so it's right outside the door. We're in here for lunch, we're in for gym, outside the gym, the part of the school that dropped off in the building.
I don't know. Have we thought about overcrowding?
We've done our due diligence, we've counted classrooms, I think we have.
I mean, I don't think K-2 or K-4 should have to move into modular classrooms because they've been acclimated into the main building, whether it's here at Janvier or at Main Road. I don't think they should be bumped into modular classrooms. I think that would upset their.
That's a great point, and I hear you. From what I've learned, kids have been for 4 years. Kids are much more resilient than we are as adults. You know, they can come into one classroom on Friday and a different classroom on Monday. As long as they're with their teacher, that's really all that matters.
That's your opinion? I take it. Okay. Let's see, I heard something about Newfield. We only have 20 kids from Newfield right now, but Newfield is a borough that is expanding with a housing construction. Right. So I just wanted you to be aware that Newfield is no longer a sleepy borough. They will have more kids and the population will be going up.
Think of that. They would then have more students and probably the need to maybe build their own buildings.
So the initial grant that is being applied for is a 3-year grant.
Now, it becomes part of our state aid and it's there until it's not. And that was when we first applied for that grant in Jamesburg 8 years ago. It was the same concern. It's been 8 years and it's still being funded. If they would pull it, as you saw in our presentations, half the difference in the space would be devastating. There's a possibility, I guess it could be.
Okay.
And politically, that would be.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the grant drying up. And then, you have the program it's already established for 3 years.
It would be awful. I feel bad for the kids, I feel bad for the parents. We've got to now find, spots.
And my last question, well, I could say comment, is the existing businesses, the private preschools, if you will, that exist here locally in Franklin Township. I have concerns that if we go with 360 students in a public concept, what will potentially happen to those private businesses that have flourished here in Franklin Township for years? My concern is that we, as a public institution, will put them out of business because we'll be draining their preschool population to send them here, and we're acting as a monopoly over all of the other private preschools that have existed in Franklin Township that have been doing very well for decades. So I'm concerned about that as well, and I think that we should think about that when we make our board decision. And I hope that if this moves forward, that we open it up and have some more public meetings. Thank you, board. Appreciate your work.
Anyone else from the public?
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
My name is Raven Adeniji. I'm a Newfield resident. I just have a few questions. The proposal that you had, does it encompass the current preschool disability program?
Yes.
Okay. And when you talk about 4 classrooms, what's the ratio between the preschool disability program and the other students?
So, we run a self-contained preschool disability program that's separate from this. The PIA funds can't be used for special education students. So they ask that you, classroom of 15, you leave 3 spots in each classroom and you're filling them, so students with disabilities and IEP can go into those classrooms. So it's an inclusion approach.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one?
Good evening. My name is Lenore Walker. I live in Franklin Township and I work here as well. I'm just wondering how the math, I'm listening to all the conversation, and is the grant going to expand as we expand with this? Or is it like we're going to get a finite amount of money, and even though we're going to increase, the grant's only going to stay at this point? Because we can't project. Like you're saying 360 more students within a 5-year period. So we're going to need, initially this much, but eventually we're going to need this much. And you're talking adding a couple of trailers out here, but if you're having 15 kids per class, and how many trailers are you going to need to accommodate 360 kids at 15 per class? I'm not understanding how that's all going to work out.
The mobile classrooms, we don't use the T word. Right?
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, and what you do in the grant, it'll ask what's your enrollment for year 1, year 2, and you project that, and it'll fund you on that. We believe that it's aggressive, as we said, but 150 in that year 1, maybe it's 200 year 2, and we get funded on that money. Eventually we get to 360, and we get funded on that.
Okay.
So it does increase as our number of projection increases.
Okay. And I also wanted to add that
It's also inclusive of the ASSA. So every year we have to count each student in the seat. So that report would also then report each preschool student that's in the seat. So that our budget was initial based on the estimated full universal picture. But then each year, as that report is due, those numbers would be a little more fine.
Okay. Okay, I also had a question regarding transportation. Since I am involved in transportation, I could tell you that it's going to cost more. We're having a hard time keeping drivers now, and the amount of drivers that we have, we're going to need more drivers come this September because we're going to be short. And so so an additional 60 kids, and you could say, you can add 5 here and 5 there. It depends on where the kids are. And I do believe that it's going to have an impact for the transportation department. It does really have to be factored in. Please don't neglect that in your calculations because that's a lot of kids.
I think what the comment was that it wasn't going to cost taxpayers because it's covered by the preschool grant. So there are going to be additional costs. However, most of those costs will be able to be funded by the preschool grant.
So will they all need car seats and that sort of thing, or is it because?
Car seats are not mandatory for the program.
Okay, because we have car seats now, and I wasn't sure if they were all going to have to be buckled in and all that, because.
They all should be buckled.
No, but I mean as far as a car seat, the 5-point straps that you have in the car seats, because that requires aids as well. So, all right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Saying no, I make a motion to close the public website. All in favor? I don't have anything specific to report this evening.
Thank you. I'll be quick. It's been a long presentation tonight. I thank my colleagues for presenting, the administrators for putting the presentation and the application together. Board members, Ted, listen. You all have an invitation to graduation. Please RSVP to Mr. Peters. Okay? He is adamant about the number of chairs that he needs. If you are going, please let him know and bring your ticket. Even I got a ticket. I just can't walk in and superintendent. I need to have a ticket. He's tough. So please, please join us. It's the combination of everything we do in the school district. This is the moving on ceremony, the stadium. It's the big sign of the year. So please, if you can make it. Let Ted know that. Bye.
The presentation, will that be on the district website?
Yes.
I figured it was, but.
And it's being recorded also.
Thank you.
I'll bet you get a PDF of this before you ask me every year.
Yeah, no, I'll be there, I'll be in the parking lot scouting with my ticket. All right, moving on with our agenda. Lacey, do you have anything from agenda?
I do. So May 30th, they're having a virtual spring conference. There's 20 sessions with multiple concurrent training sessions. And $99 from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And on June 6th, they're having an AI conference, which they'll be discussing using AI in classrooms. And that's at the Conference Center at Mercer County College, and that is on June 6th.
If everyone will sign up on that, any Board of Education news report? Here's the time. We'll move on to approval of our minutes from 4:16, staffing review work session. All of our minutes from 4:28 regular board meeting. You guys have to review those minutes. I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any changes or comments? All in favor? Any abstentions? Human resources, are there any additions or changes since our review, our work session passed?
One person pulled out, accepting
before we vote, I want to comment on G9, the job description, the new supervisory roles. I'm going to vote no for that. I just want to make clear why I'm voting no. Not that I think something doesn't need to change. Change may need to happen, but I don't think it needs to happen now. I respect you, Mr. Betts, but our new superintendent, I feel, should be the person making that decision. Making those changes is a very large change, and Mr. Betts is only a few more months with us, and this new person wants to come into this role with these big changes. So I feel that they should have some kind of role in it. That's why I'm voting no.
Any other comments or questions? Human resources.
I would like to say something about that also, but it's a little different. This says grades 2 to 6, and it probably could be a clerical change later at some point, but I think it's contingent on preschool that this is 2 to 6. If something goes south at preschool, this person's gonna have to be K to 6, right? So I
would, and remind you, it's just creation of the job description.
Yeah,
I'm not
I know.
filling it, I'm not.
You're not.
Well, there's no road to
not-
tell it.
It is.
What I'm concerned about is a person may look at this and say, oh, no, it's just supposed to be 2 to 6. That's my only concern. I'm going to support it, but I think it clerically needs to be fixed. Or there should be a condition listed somewhere about.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't do it unless we have that, the preschool and the director to fill that pre-K.
Oh, you won't do it without that.
If we decide if preschool falls through and you still want to do the split, we can always modify it later. But again, just creating a job description, I'm not putting any names for it at the moment to fill the position. That's all you do. And again, nobody's going to say no.
Yeah, I just think it's irresponsible to make such a big change with a new person.
We had that discussion. That's really,
So if pre-K falls through, it would go back to K to 6? You're saying it would go back?
or say the same as it is now. That's something we can
But
talk
we're
about.
only changing it in the event that we get preschool. Otherwise, there's no need for a change. Because I feel like that's putting the cart before the horse.
You need that preschool first.
Right. So then why shouldn't we wait on that until we know if we get preschool? The application's not even live.
So what we're trying to do, is explain that in the presentation, it's called the mobile classroom provider. It's called the Kaplan, where we're preempting our application being reviewed by, we're ready, as soon as we get it green, if we get the green, we're ready to move quickly. That's this is part of it.
So, but if you can call that guy and we can have some more mobile classrooms here because he's ready, we can change this the month that we find out about pre-K.
Well, we have to change it, interview, advertise, interview, it's a little bit of a drawn out process.
I just want to say, I think it's a educationally sound move. It's a first step. It's not going to be a big change for a new superintendent because they weren't here when it was the way it is now. So they will be coming into a new situation that's new overall. And if for some reason as they're here and they find that that's not working, then by all means they can come to us and recommend something different. But we've discussed for many years about making changes, and we have not made any moves to do that. And I feel like we're finally on a path to start moving the district forward, and I would just like to see that continue.
Yeah, just for clarification purposes, I realize that Alicia, you and Stephanie weren't able to participate in the discussion together, you need to work that. But
Cunningham?
Yeah.
Gray?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Education items, no changes, okay. No changes. Any comments from board members on education items? Hearing none, make a motion to approve education items H1 through H6 as recommended by the superintendent. Do I have a second?
Second.
With no other comments, Tricia, call roll.
Brown?
Yes.
Wilson? Smith?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Chungling?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Regoso?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, general administration items, we have some changes. No comments, I'll take a motion to approve general administration items, item 1 through item 6 as recommended by the superintendent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Brown. Any comments, questions? Tricia, call roll, please.
Wilson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Chungling?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Regoso?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Operations, Tricia, any,
No changes. The bill list was added, I believe last Thursday. We just had a look at it. Everything else remains the same.
and just to clarify, I know we discussed in the work session, but this should be put into several adoptions, annual adoptions, maybe students, or purchasing manual, standard operating procedures, so on and so forth. No change from anything, right?
Correct, just the years.
Right. Anybody need any additional time? Nicole? If not, I will make a motion to approve operations items J1 through J18 as recommended by the superintendent. Is that a second?
Second.
Any other comments? Tricia, call roll.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Regoso?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Star?
Yes.
Chungling?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Not a question. The donation for the Eagle Scout to, the library.
Yes.
Something that.
You typically would send a thank you letter, but we can also try to. Bring it in next time.
Oh,
I
you
cou-
want
I
to
couldn't
shoot
hear
it?
it. What's that?
No, it's a son.
That's your son? Oh, I didn't bring it. Thank you.
I'll let him know. He watches the videos.
Okay, I didn't, it didn't connect to me.
So I'll pray everybody say thank you, Finn.
Thank you, Finn. Well, if you would like.
He'll see that.
It'd be recognized, we would love to have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll give him a clock.
I have a bunch of my clocks.
Where's that collection? You just need a battery.
All right, moving on, anything else? Okay. Whole business, we have 4 goals listed, as well as near the plan calendar. Everyone, since saw the email from Jude regarding the progress of the superintendent search, stuff, as well as the dates. Is there anybody who's not able to make the dates, or?
I already responded.
She did, yeah, Chris, I just wanted.
I want Saturday.
Saturday, I'm available for everything. Saturday.
So in any event, I'm assuming that we're okay with this, enough people to each date, and we're keeping the date.
Correct.
That's the easement.
About that, we got the questions, what do we,
Yeah.
do we, like, comment and then send them to her? Like, how, or there's just, how is that supposed to be done?
Well, that was the next part of my question was, did everybody
thinking as we were talking about these meetings, we have a work session. Can we eliminate, like, and just do a combined meetings, and we're gonna have a full meeting?
But with all
Yeah.
with that, you might not need it. Yeah. Well, I think we had it, we didn't know what it was gonna look like.
Yeah.
I know.
I'd rather take every meeting. But that's what we're doing.
Just make the minutes reflect what we shall say.
I'll get rid of that. Can I make a comment? It's probably only affect Greg and I, but the 16th is the 8th grade week. So I would not be here.
That's fine.
Greg would have the same thing, so the Monday or whatever, the 11th is fine. But I know we would both cut out.
You guys don't together. Is that why you?
You're allowed to adjourn the time, you're waiting for the kids.
All right, so then, so do the link, and then we'll.
Right, but she's saying the 16th is the 8th grade band.
They won't be home. Yeah, I wouldn't be here as well.
If we don't find a meeting. But,
Yeah. Well, I think we could.
go for the 11th. So we can say for the combined meeting on the 11th.
Or we either way.